Life here on Earth is precious, robust, majestic, and sometimes mystifies. Amid this vast beauty, our planet is teetering on a razor-sharp edge toward a critical imbalance, and the intricate, interconnected web of life is already paying the ultimate price. As day breaks in South Florida, the 32 acres of the Palm Beach Zoo are bathed in sunlight. The mission is clear: protect animals, protect their habitats, and inspire people to value and conserve the beautiful world around us. The zoo has a secret weapon, a silent partner that extends their mission well beyond its modest footprint in Florida. This zoo is powered by the sun.
You would not have life on Earth without the sun. You wouldn't have things growing. You wouldn't have plants converting carbon into oxygen. We wouldn't be breathing without the energy in the process that begins with the energy from the sun.
And the exchange that we have between the ocean and the air makes it a very habitable planet. We have we're in a very ideal location relative to our star, the sun. And we have giving us a pretty uniform heating over the year, but the problem is that heating is centered on the equator. So we have to distribute that heat somehow, and that's the job of the atmosphere and the ocean.
If we continue to abuse the environment at the current rate, animals around the world will no longer have wild habitat where they are free.
There are numerous species at the zoo that are critically endangered, and truthfully, these animals very soon will only be found in zoo. We have conservation programs involved with a lot of different species. Mexican spider monkeys, which are critically endangered through Central America. Malayan tiger, one of the largest species at the Palm Beach Zoo, the estimation is only there's 500 left in the wild. It's not inconceivable in the near future that the only way you can actually see these animals, the only way these animals are going to live, is in a captive situation.
Captivity is not an acceptable compromise for any animal. It's our duty to make a difference for these animals so they can have a life in the wild. One of the answers shines on us every day.
So there's enough energy coming from the sun hitting literally everywhere on the planet that I could actually meet half of my energy needs if I just collected the energy that fell free and hit the land that I call my home, my property. And that's true for literally everybody. If you put it on public buildings, did the conversion process and converted that energy, the sun's energy into usable energy, the electricity that we could use in our buildings and in our homes and in our factories, we could easily meet a major portion of our energy needs here in West Palm Beach, here in Florida, here in the United States, anywhere on the planet.
The Palm Beach Zoo has taken bold steps to harness that energy. A new 80-panel solar array installed on the zoo's animal hospital converts the sun's rays into usable electricity. Clint Sockman headed up the solar power installation team for advanced roofing.
The sun strikes the solar panels. The solar panels capture the full spectrum of light, and from there that energy is transferred from the wire management system down off the roof into a combiner box. From the combiner box, the energy goes into an inverter, which creates AC energy from the DC energy that's put into it. That AC energy is fed into the Palm Beach Zoo's electrical system and helps power the animal hospital.
Solar technology has taken dramatic leaps over the last decade. It's not the bulky, low-producing panels of the 80s and 90s. It's thin, flexible, and efficient power for the future.
Thin film photovoltaic panels are very revolutionary and very cutting edge because of how lightweight and flexible they are. They're laminated directly to a roof system, which gives us a lot of flexibility in how it's deployed and what it does. The thin film panels are made up of triple layer amorphous silicon, which allows us to collect all three layers of light spectrum, whether it's blue light, diffuse light, low light levels, and that makes them super efficient in the world of photovoltaics. Of course, this helps the environment in a lot of ways. We're offsetting energy usage, and this also correlates into just awareness of what you're doing. People start using less energy when they can. They turn off light switches. They become aware of what they're doing. So it really translates into a larger picture than just what we're doing is with the energy offsets that are here on the roof.
Clean energy directly from the sun makes its way through the panels on the roof to power the building and the important work below. Dr. Michelle Miller is the head veterinarian charged with the proper care of the zoo's 1,400 residents.
I actually do have the best job in the world. I hear that often from people, both children and adults, and my job is really exciting on a day-to-day basis because you never know what you're going to be faced with when you walk in the door. So I've been doing it for quite a while, and it's still as exciting as the first day. This zoo is absolutely amazing in the fact that they have made an incredible investment in a state-of-the-art green hospital. And this facility, again, has all of the technology that we can provide to our animals and give them the best possible care that is really comparable to a human hospital.
Sustainable green practices are the norm in the hospital. X-rays are computer-based and use no paper, no film, and no chemicals. And a motion-controlled lighting system ensures that the lights turn off when a room is not occupied.
Personally, to me, again, as a conservationist, it is incredibly important that everything that we do helps contribute to conservation and preservation of the earth, the energy, and also helping to inspire others to be aware of those kind of practices. So we do things like recycling not only bottles, but even plastic syringe cases or different types of medical equipment in order to, again, fulfill that part of our mission. Right from the top, Dr. Maple, along with our board, are extremely supportive of being a sustainable leader in conservation. That's how they've created the mission statement, and it trickles down throughout all of the staff in our day-to-day practices. So even it goes from education in trying to inspire conservation and educate our guests about sustainability, right to doing practices here in the hospital.
Sustainability is built into every surface, from the building walls to the bamboo floors. Every green aspect of the building contributed to the gold level certification. Dr. Terry Maple, the zoo's director, takes this to heart.
Well, I can tell you this, that our interest in sustainability is to find cost-effective methods that teach and LEED certification, for example, and this is the first LEED certified hospital in the nation in a zoo. It was set up by the LEED programming to be a teaching institution, not just an operating institution. So we don't just use solar energy here. We teach others about the value and importance of solar energy. And I have to say that when I moved to Florida 5 years ago, I was astounded that there wasn't a lot more solar energy being used in Florida. And I was told that, well, yes, but we don't get as much sun here as they do in Albuquerque, and we get thunderstorms. You know, okay, but there's a lot of sun coming here, more than there is in Germany, for example, where they have a very vibrant solar energy program. So it seemed to me when I began to talk with our friends at Florida Power and Light that we could be a model of what other institutions could do with solar energy, and indeed, I think we are.
This is clean energy. No greenhouse gas emissions like you get from traditional sources like coal and oil. Dr. Frank Marks of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration studies the role humans are playing in the complex workings of the atmosphere.
In this complex chemistry that we have, we call the atmosphere, this natural gas, the trace components are critical because they drive things like the heating and rain and precipitation. And the interesting thing about the warm-blooded animals and the plants generate oxygen and they take CO2. Animals take oxygen and generate CO2. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the vegetable world and the animal world in that sense in our composition, our reactions to the composition of the atmosphere. So we do play a role. The problem with that is that we're working with the trace constituents, the ones that are 1 part per billion or 1 part per thousand. And so our inputs can have a dramatic impact on the natural system. And over time, we've had a balance where the plants and man has had a pretty good balance for about 10,000 years. And what's happened though, since the Industrial Revolution, that balance has been shifting. And it's been shifting to a mode that we haven't seen in our history before, at least while man has been around thinking about it.
The connection between man and nature is shifting from coexistence to harmful consumption of resources. And this shift is having a major impact on climate, wildlife, ocean, and even humans. Dr. Kenny Broad is a professor of climate studies at the University of Miami's Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences.
When I was growing up as a kid, they always taught us about people and they taught us about nature, and they kept them separate, or people and the environment. But when you spend enough time in the water, or you go out into the woods or the mangroves or the Everglades, you realize that in a city like Miami, you can't separate nature and people. And everything we do, whether we intend to do it or not, whether it's using up water, whether it's just going out to the beach and we happen to drop something in the sand that makes it out into the water, it has a direct impact on the environment. And that's something we got to think about from the minute we get up in the morning.
When human actions are focused in a positive direction, the benefits can be measured in many ways. For instance, a young healthy tree gives off a net cooling effect equal to 10 room-sized air conditioners operating all day. What about 200 trees? That's about an acre of rainforest, which can absorb an amazing amount of carbon dioxide, almost 2 tons. That's how much CO2 would go into the atmosphere during a whole year of driving your car. As the zoo's director of living collections, Keith Lovett knows full well how important rainforests are to so many species and animals he cares for right here.
When you're talking about forests, and particularly talking about rainforests, you're talking about massive destruction. Some of the forests, they're just not intact anymore. Something like 37 million acres of rainforest are being destroyed every year. In the last 2 decades, forest areas double the size of the country of France have been destroyed. These are huge chunks of the planet that are gone and will take decades and decades, if not 100 years, to grow back. So the forest, it just isn't there anymore, and what is left has to be maintained. We work with a lot of endangered species here at the Palm Beach Zoo, and one of the biggest things that happen is habitat destruction. Forests are going away. We work with species like golden lion tamarins. They're found in the Atlantic coastal forests of Brazil, and 98% of the Atlantic coastal forest of Brazil is gone. So there's very little habitat left for the animals. It's not just a matter of the animals declining, there's no forest left for them to go. So it's very critical that we maintain what we still have.
Working with them every single day, it's not something I want to see happen. They have really fascinated me for a long time. We've had several offspring born here at the Palm Beach Zoo, and I've watched them grow up, watched them go on to other zoos to be paired up with mates just like they would do out in the wild. So yes, it would be devastating to see their native home, see them disappear.
Environmental offsets are common terms used every day when referring to renewable energy. We can equate using solar energy to unused gallons of gas, barrels of oil, and tons of coal. The zoo's connection to solar is very real and radiates out to critical habitats around the world.
When the Palm Beach Zoo was developing some of the programs and we were able to create a solar program here at the zoo, this was a great thing. Not only is the responsible thing, we basically are sending a message. We are talking about wildlife conservation. We are talking about recycling. By actually putting actions where we have been talking about it and showing people that we are responsible and they can be responsible too, it's important for our mission at the Palm Beach Zoo.
That is going to help to save non-renewable resources, which are these forests. These forests are their homes. This is where they are from. And by helping save these resources, by using solar energy and being more green, we are going to help to preserve their native homes and hopefully one day put them back out into those homes.
The fact of the matter is, it's going to take an effort to make the changes necessary to put things on a course for the better. And what better way to do that than recognize our own connection to nature and actively nurture that essential relationship.
I guess we can read about nature all we want. It's not till you get out there and get in the water or get into the woods that you actually see that you can relate to animals. You know, animals, you know, are other living creatures, and until we get our kids out there, I don't think we're gonna take the next step of really protecting what's important to the ecosystem. All of us have different levels of concern about the environment, about the economy. You know, I'm concerned because I figure I'm going to live my life out and be all right, but I got kids, they may have kids. There's a lot of people out there who rely on what we're using up right now. So it's kind of my feeling it's our obligation to the future generation.
So how does solar energy save animals? By reducing the stress on the environment. That's you and me, our family and friends, neighbors, co-workers, people from around the globe, working together to make the work easier. Every person who uses renewable energy, recycles, or makes a consistent effort to conserve resources carries some of the weight. This way we all step up to lighten the load for everyone and our planet.
I guess the way that a lot of us were brought up was to get what you can before it gets used up or taken by someone else. And I think that's what's gonna wipe us out if we don't start to cooperate and realize that I need to conserve, and that'll be an example for someone else to conserve. Don't try to use it up before someone else uses up, because as we've already seen, that doesn't work out for anyone's benefit.
Going forward, our actions must amount to real change. And we need to get back to carbon emission rates where the atmosphere was on a more stable footing. Today, we're adding carbon dioxide exponentially, and scientists warn we're approaching a critical point.
What we're seeing, and the big discussion is, how close are we to changing the climate dramatically or permanently from this other mode? We've had this mode that has existed for 10,000 years very comfortably, and now we're starting to shift it. And it's not just the plant and man mix, it's the way we're changing the environment. We're cutting down trees, there's less plants. We're increasing the human population, there's more humans. So we're, not only is it the carbon dioxide that's coming from the fossil fuels and stuff, but it's also the change in the mixture of our land use, by lack of trees, and the increase in population of man. And until man takes a recognition of that, we're moving into a situation that's unprecedented in our history. We do not recognize maybe what these events are going to precipitate.
What we do know is that all of life is vulnerable to these impacts. Even the least likely of species, vultures, known for their ability to scavenge meals for survival, have seen a dramatic reduction in numbers. So much so that animal trainers like Allison O'Kell are taking notice and sharing their concerns.
We work with a couple different vulture species at our show, and when you tell the story of the vulture and how the vulture population as a whole has decreased by 95% in the last 10 years, meaning we only have 5% of the vultures that we used to have, and how important they are to the forest and being pretty much like the garbage disposal of the forest, but they clean up everything that helps prevent disease spread throughout the forest and the jungle. And that story to me is amazing, just how quickly that species has dwindled and what to do to help bring it back and how important they are to their environments. You know, when you first start, you kind of just think of them as individuals here at the zoo, and then you start to see the bigger picture, especially with this whole clean energy and preserving the environment. You start to think about, okay, these wild counterparts of these animals out in the wild, what are we doing here that helps them out there? And that's really the big goal, is to preserve the environment, to make sure that these animals are not going to be endangered or critically endangered, or if we can help them in any sort of way out in the wild, that's what we want to do.
The zoo is going beyond its borders to work in threatened habitats around the world with a real hands-on plan of action. And it's working.
One of the great programs the Palm Beach Zoo is involved in is a Perdido key beach mouse. It's a small little mouse that a lot of people don't pay attention to, but this is an endangered species that's found in the panhandle of Florida. Palm Beach Zoo not only has a captive collection of Perdido Key beach mice, we've actually been able to release them into the wild. We're actually increasing the numbers in the wild. Our curator of behavior research, Stephanie Dampier, is heading up that program, and it is a great program the zoo is very proud of.
Beach mice can definitely be termed as being in a precarious situation in their ecosystem because of habitat destruction. Like many species in the wild, they face habitat loss due to development, due to hurricanes causing erosion, and that makes it very difficult for them to have enough habitat to live in.
These small creatures play a big part in the overall health of the Perdido Key environment. The constant give and take is part of an essential cycle of life there. Beach mice that were bred in captivity at the zoo have been reintroduced to Perdido Key.
We released 48 mice into the wild, and in the 3 months following the release, we actually were able to monitor them very closely using radio collars and using different trapping methods, and we found that we had as many new wild-born mice as we had originally released. So one of the really great things that means is that not only are they doing very well now that they're back in their natural habitat, but we're also seeing them in areas where they hadn't been seen in over a decade. The success of this reintroduction leads me to believe that not only are they able to survive, but there's support out there for them, not only for the people who protect their wild habitat, but for places like the zoo that helps to conserve our natural resources by, trying to be more creative with our energy use, by doing the solar panels and providing opportunities to keep our environment clean and healthy.
The Palm Beach Zoo is a shining example of sustainability and renewable energy, a true commitment to its mission and vision.
I was in charge also of creating a signage system that would recognize our donors and all the people that were helping us to put this together. But I didn't want to do it just to be a sign. I wanted it to be a green sign. So we interviewed sign companies, and we told them, well, first we asked them, are you a green sign company? And they all scratched their heads and said, well, what's that? So my answer was, if you can become a green sign company, if you can figure out how to do it sustainably, I'm interested in giving you some money to build our signs. Sure enough, the company that came back with the best ideas, we hired them. And they will tell you today that they are now, not only do they produce traditional signs, they also produce signs sustainably, and they can do that job for you. We created a company that wasn't there before. That is the essence of LEED certification.
If the negative impacts can be measured in struggling species and depleted habitats, the good news of using solar energy and adopting sustainable practices can lift spirits and change attitudes, and have us look forward with a sunnier disposition.
Oh, I'm excited about it. I think everybody on the planet should be excited about it. I think we ought to be concerned with eliminating the distractions. You got to understand that if the goal is to have renewable energy, if the goal is to have energy that doesn't pollute, if the goal is to have energy that I can use without having an adverse impact on my quality of life or the environment around me or anyone else on the planet's environment, then I can go directly to the sun as a source of that energy, and I can do that. It's just a matter of having acquiring the ability, doing the science, studying, doing the research, building the products, building the devices that allow me to collect that energy, and then replicating that process over and over and over. And as I do that, gain enough knowledge to improve the process so that the efficiency starts to go up. And of course, the efficiency is going up now.
The zoo is part of a community in South Florida, and it is having a positive impact on people, families, and businesses beyond what anyone thought possible.
Well, what I love about the new zoo and the place that Terry Maples has taken the new zoo is for it to be a green zoo and a place where we can be a model for sustainability. And of course, having the solar panels on the veterinary hospital is a great example of what they want to do throughout the zoo.
Well, I think there's a lot going on around the world that people should be proud of. We're proud of our role in this. I have a great team here. I'm really the guy that tries to open the doors to set the table for their work. And I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of the kids who come here and learn. It is a special place because of the animals and because of the devotion of the staff. and the community that supports us. So it is one happy family in that way, because we're making a difference.
When you're working with wildlife, you're taking care of animals every day, you become very proud. The conservation education, the educational opportunities we provide to guests. We want to provide the best quality care of the animal, but to actually be able to work in the field, study animals, protect habitat, and basically create solutions so that animals are actually doing better in the wild from the work. It makes everything very tangible. It basically motivates you for doing this. This is why we do it. It's not just about having animals in the zoo, it's protecting wildlife throughout the world.
For the Palm Beach Zoo, saving animals and their habitats around the world requires a brave step forward. And with every step they take, others are following. Their message is being carried far and wide. The path to a better future will be full of travelers, sharing a common journey, fueled by the sun. To learn more about this program, visit www.wlrnsolarzoo.org.